Hey guys, what's up? So I'm going to do something I haven't actually ever done on Zwift. I got a hold of my buddy Shon last night, and I'm going to meet up with him in Zwift, and we're going to ride the Three Sisters route, which is probably one of my favorite routes, so I'm glad that's what he wanted to do. So here's the thing about riding with Shon. Shon's quite a bit better bike rider than me. He is probably just a little stronger than me on the bike, and then he's got about a 30-pound weight advantage. So there may possibly be a little bit of cheating in my Zwift profile. My weight might be a little lower than it's supposed to be, so there's a good chance that I can keep up with Shon on this ride. Hopefully I can keep up with Shon on this ride. And we'll see how it goes. So, let's see the ride footage. Shon caught up with me. Before this, we had met up right on the beginning, the first climb, the original Hilly Loop KOM, and we were not calibrated very well. I would pass him, and then he would pass me, and then I had to stop and turn on recording so I could record this scene. And we kept just kind of buzzing past each other. And finally here we kind of hook up and start riding together. So a few interesting things going on here. First off, I'm on a Kurt Kinetic trainer. So I'm fluid trainer. I've got no connection to the computer other than it just picks up my speed from my Garmin sensor through an Ant Plus stick, and it kind of calculates my power off that. So it's an estimation. Now, I think it's a pretty good estimation. I feel like it's pretty close to where my actual speed is, but I have no real way of knowing for sure. Now, Shon's on a real smart trainer, so his trainer is adjusting his resistance according to the information on the elevation of the road from Zwift. It gets harder to pedal on a climb, gets easier to pedal on a downhill. He has to shift a lot. I could literally just put this thing in whatever gear I felt comfortable riding, 75, 85 RPM, whatever I feel like doing, and I could just ride that way all day. But he has to shift. So pretty big, I feel like, pretty big advantage, but he really enjoys the smart trainer, says that it gives him a feeling of like much more immersion into the game. If you haven't done the Three Sisters before you start, you do the original Hilly KOM, which is like, I don't know, like a 200 feet climb or something. It takes a few minutes to do. And then you ride down to the flat course, ride it backwards until you come to the first right-hand turn in the aquariums section that takes you up to the epic KOM. So I've been doing fine hanging on to the back of Shon. I realized on the flats I had no trouble keeping in his draft, and I spent most of this part of the ride in his draft. And this was the first upcoming little hill. This little hill out of the aquarium is the first real test, I thought, coming up. And I didn't expect this, but Shon, he pretty much dropped the hammer on this first little climb. Not really, trying to drop the hammer, I guess, but 4 watts per kilogram up the climb. I was not necessarily expecting that, so I got dropped pretty hard here on this climb. I was pretty worried at this point. I thought, wow, I've never ridden with Shon on Zwift. Of course, I've ridden with him in real life quite a bit, and so I know, that he can kill me on a climb in real life, especially a longer one where my weight really hampers me. But on this short climb in Zwift, he just killed me right there, and I really was like, this is going to be a long 30 miles. But it's really cool when you're riding with somebody on Zwift. You're not just somebody you've kind of hooked up with, but like a person you actually know. They're going to be cool, and they're going to kind of wait up on you and let you catch up. I am just hanging on. Shon is just hammering it. I'd say we're averaging 250 plus watts on the bottom half of the mountain, and we're just blowing past riders, and I'm really just hanging on. And I think he's probably holding back every now and again to let me catch back on, because He's doing a really, really good job of just keeping me on. This Novak guy comes in. He's been riding behind us for a while, and he starts to work his way ahead of us. And on the Epic Bridge section up here, the grade changes from 6-7% to 3%. And you'll see that as the grade changes, I'm just able to just zoom right away from Shon. I don't know what Shon's weight's set at in Zwift, but I have a feeling that it's maybe a little lower than me, because I noticed that on the flat sections, I was able to, outperform him just a little bit. It seemed like I could. But that could also be because of the fact that with a fluid trainer and Z-Power, I'm just putting out straight standard power, and he has to shift, and it's going to get harder. He may have to stand up and overcome more resistance, whereas I'm just putting out constant power. So it's definitely a little easier for me to keep up a smooth pace. Again, I am drifting off the back of Shon. I can't keep up with him, and I'm suffering a lot. But one of the things about me is that generally I need some time to warm up. I never am at my best for the first 30 minutes of a ride, and a lot of times I'm really not at my best until an hour in, and that's when I start to really perform. So as we continue our way up the mountain here, I'm starting to feel better and better. Even though Shon's throwing out crazy wattage and hurting, I always on the mountain start to feel good right around the time we get to this town, this little town here. And I've always kind of imagined in my head that when you get to this town, it's like, well, you got to show off for the people. So I usually start riding faster when I get to this town. And here I am. I stand up, sprint, move past Shon. It's like automatic. I do this every time. So for the next half of the ride, the next half of the climb up the mountain, I'm starting to, if not fall off the back quite so much, and hang on to Shon a little bit better. And I'm still definitely hurting, but not as bad as I was. I'm starting to feel a little bit more in control, and that's a lot more fun. So on Zwift Mountain, you go through several different, almost like biomes as you work your way up. And when you get up close to the top, you get into this alpine biome, which is definitely inspired from, I've seen these in Giro Italia, Tour de France, these high alpine climbs that have these like carved roadways with columns, and the road kind of goes under this like a almost tunnel through a side of an Alp. So this is a really cool feature, and Zwift, I mean, one of the things I wish on Zwift I could do is just look around. You're just locked into this forward view. There's a few different views, but generally I'm working too hard to mess with changing them. So you're kind of locked into this forward view, and just it'd be so cool if you could kind of look around and check out your surroundings a little better, because they have put a lot of work into making Zwift, and I think especially this stage, this area, look really awesome. It's kind of not really truly alpine. It's the epic KOM, but it's not really epic. I mean, it's about a 1,000-foot climb, and 1,000 feet. That's a big climb, but to start from sea level, to go rise 1,000 feet, this is sort of more like a theme park mountain. It's not a real mountain. This is where in the ride that I usually do on the mountain climb, I usually ride my best. The downhills let me build up some speed, and then I'm generally pretty good to keeping that speed over these little rollers here on this part of the mountain climb, which is my, probably my favorite part, because it's the only part you're ever moving faster than 10 miles an hour or whatever. So I moved past Shon a couple times. He has no trouble catching up with me. We were just really, really well matched, and it was really fun because I felt like neither one of us was having to really do much waiting or holding back. And I think both of us, at least I know I was giving it 100%, and we'll find out why I know I was giving it 100%, and he was too. At this point, I can see our ETA, and I know that when I start putting out power again, I see that ETA drop down into 29 minutes. So my record is 30 minutes and 50-some seconds there. So I'm like at one point almost 2 minutes off my record, but 2 minutes faster than my record. So I'm feeling really good at this point. I'm like, wow, you know, having somebody with you, having some competition, it just ups your game. And there's no way I could have rode this pace by myself. A sharp downhill to build up some speed, and then about a 250 foot climb to the top at around 5-6%, so it's not crazy steep. You can keep your speed up it. I'm blowing past some guys here, feeling great. Shon has no trouble blowing past me, and I'm able to hang on. I had to put out about 400 watts for a second. And we're both going to set a KOM here, so this is great. Not KOM, a PR. We both set a PR. I'm 142nd, 143rd on the mountain. Definitely my highest result. This is my favorite part of the downhill, so I'm just coasting downhill here. I'm taking it nice and easy. The downhill has a long coasting section. You can keep about as much speed coasting as you can pedaling. But there's this one part where you have to climb your way back up. And I love to come into this going 50 miles per hour and then just stand and put out 500. I've done 1,000 watts on this. And, you know, it's just amazing how much time you can make up through here by just sprinting out as hard as you can this little section. So this is the one time in the ride where I got out ahead of Shon a few seconds. Because I'm sure he wasn't expecting me to sprint up that little climb right there. But that's something I would do in real life. And that's, you know, Zwift matches real life quite a bit because that's something I do all the time in real life. Big guy, you got a lot of momentum, you got a lot of mass. So you definitely change speeds a little bit slower than a light guy. So if I'm blowing down a hill, I can usually short climb. I might out sprint a lighter guy. So it's one of the few times a heavy guy can kind of outclimb a light guy. The rest of the downhill is a nice long flat and or downhill, and now we're on the flats. And Zwift had a lot of people on it through here. I was putting out around 200 so watts, and Shon was right behind me. Getting close to an hour of recording at this point, and it stopped recording at 1 hour for whatever reason, so I'm about out of footage. But the Three Sisters goes on. You do a lap around the volcano, you climb the volcano, and then you go back to the finish line. It's about 30 miles. We skipped the tower because I asked Shon to. I hate that tower climb. It's horrible. It's like my least favorite thing in Zwift is to climb that tower on the epic KOM. But thankfully, Shon was okay with skipping it. So I was feeling great through here. I just set a PR on the mountain. Lots of adrenaline, lots of feeling really good. And we were both riding a little easier casual pace, but it seemed like we were just flying through these flats after the climb. So a lot of fun. If you haven't ever met up with a buddy, with a real life buddy, real life friend to ride in Zwift, it's really worth it. It's like an experience that it's almost like riding your bike in the real world. I mean, sure, you're not really riding your bike, but it's the closest you can get on a cold, rainy day in February. So thank you, Zwift. Appreciate it. And thanks, Shon, for meeting me to ride. So until we meet again, have a great day.